Give it a couple more minutes before we actually kick in. We got about 2 more minutes till the top of the hour. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Steve Shelton with Green Shoe Consulting. I'm the CEO and Chief Resilience Officer here. I'd like to welcome you to part 4 of 4 of our cybersecurity job loss support group. So today is going to be focused on support for the 4-part series. So we are wrapping up and summarizing what we've done thus far. The idea here is that, jumping into it, today we're going to be focused on, this is our strategy summit. So how do we take everything together that we've done and move it into some continued actionable items for everybody, with the primary focus being this group is a value-added educational service intended to provide a psychologically safe space for those in between jobs, foster connection with others dealing with a shared experience, and learn skills to develop and maintain positivity, optimism, and resilience. It's really easy when a experience like a non-voluntary or involuntary job loss occurs, make it sound like I'm a psychology professional, which I am, to feel negative impacts, thoughts, feelings, emotions to that experience. So one, just being able to acknowledge the loss itself, mourn that loss, work through the thoughts and the emotions that you would experience with that. A lot of us also have an impact to our identity where there's shame, embarrassment, all kinds of feelings that lead us to more isolate opposed to really reach out for support, which is the purpose of this group, is to provide that support. And then also, how do you develop those skills to maintain a positive aspect? Because it's easy to allow desperation, fears, doubts, anxieties to creep in, especially when we're not getting the results and the outcomes that we want. So the idea here is to provide that space. So to kick things off in terms of reiterating what our guidelines are for this community, since this is the live stream version of this, the confidentiality is going to be a challenge. However, we do want to have an understanding and agreement that because we are sharing the space, that we are providing as much confidentiality as possible, is that we're not going to be sharing any specifics for anything that's been verbally expressed in this space or written in the chat that might out somebody and cause some issues for them individually. But definitely want to operate with a level of respect to where when somebody's providing something in the chat for this, again, the live stream component, that we are being non-judgmental, we're curious, we're trying to empathize because we're all struggling. The beauty of this space too, and having a group, is that, even if you are not contributing verbally or writing something in the chat, that type of thing, you are still going to take things away that actually help you. So knowing that, that's part of the reason for the space. And then also voluntarily sharing. So the idea is that if you come into the space, you're looking for some type of help, support, whatever it is on your journey, and that's what we're here for. So the more that you can share and the more that you're willing to do so, the more that you're going to get out of it. Finally, today's objectives. We are going to put it all together. We're going to discuss what we've done previously. We're going to go into the value statement, the goal setting that we've done, some networking skills and tactics that you can utilize, and really utilize those things to build out your 90-day action plan. part of the challenge is when we're focused on fears, doubts, and anxieties, it gets really hard to take action because there's so much uncertainty and overwhelming feelings on what do we actually do, which make it really easy to get paralyzed. Action kills that. I don't want to say kills it, but the idea of we don't need to kill the fears, doubts, and anxieties, but we don't want them driving the bus. We want our courage, our confidence, and our truth in who we are to drive the bus. So acknowledging the fears, doubts, and anxieties and still choosing how we're going to show up. That's the idea. So I'm going to add in one component first, which is what I want everybody to get started with and the takeaway from this whole process. So Franklin D. Roosevelt gave a great speech, the Man in the Arena speech, which is a very, very long speech, but it's one of the basis, or it's a basis of how we operate at Green Shoe Consulting, and it's how we operate, live our life, and show up in our spaces. Is we want to be authentic, we want to do the hard work, we want to do the things that allow us to feel an integrity with ourselves and that we're growing and contributing to something bigger than ourselves. So the quote from that very long speech is, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." I get chills even just reading that. That's the mindset that I'd like to convey and help everybody achieve in this space, is that it's easy to be the observer, to be judgmental, to be critical of others. It's easy to point the finger. The challenge, however, is that that does not get you anywhere. So the idea is, how do we lean more into being that man or person in the arena that's willing to take the victory just as much as we're willing to take the losses and the defeat? So with that being said, let's jump into today's session. So first, as we always do, we start off with a check-in. So the check-in is a very simple concept. What this does is it starts to create some awareness, some self-awareness over how you're feeling in the moment, but also where your mindset's at. So we can do this simply. I offer up typically 3 different check-ins. One could be just your feeling or feelings in the moment. We operate off of the 7 primary feelings of joy, anger, fear, sad, shame, disgust, and surprise. You'll notice 5 out of those 7 feelings are not necessarily super positive, and that's because of the way that our brains have developed over 2 million years worth of evolution, that they're meant to help us avoid pain and death. So the idea is, it's really easy for us to go down that negative rabbit hole of the fears, doubts, anxieties, anger, frustration, irritation, all these things that take us out of being our best selves. And it's really a challenge for us, which is why we need to develop the mental skills and the practices daily to be able to notice that and then move back into our positive selves more easily or consistently, might be the better word. But the idea here is, you can do a feelings check in the moment just to demonstrate that. In the moment right now, I feel a lot of joy to be in the space and to be able to help serve and support anybody that's going through a challenging time right now with their job search, and be able to do the work that we do to help others feel their best, manage stress effectively, prevent burnout, and all those things. So that is one way to check in. We can also do a roses and thorns. Roses are typically things that people enjoy or find positive, And so that could be simply what was something that happened today or over the past couple of days or week that was a positive thing that you'd like to acknowledge. So for me, what was a positive thing? I think for me, we had some more registrants for a stress management workshop we're doing. So makes me feel good that the work that I'm doing resonates with others. And there's people that are wanting to help support it. Thorn could be something that you don't enjoy, or maybe that's causing some frustration, irritation, annoyance, whatever it is, something that's upset you, made you angry. For me, I think I've had a couple nights that my sleep has not been great. So as a result, it's easy for me to be cranky and irritated and a little short and curt with people around me. That's a thorn on my side. The last one that you could do is in terms of a check-in is an acronym for PIES. P is physical, I is intellectual, E is emotion, S is spiritual. This is just a check-in with each one of those. How do you feel physically, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually? I'm not going to demonstrate that because that goes into a longer check-in, but that's the idea. Being able to generate some awareness on how you're feeling in the current moment and why, and then really investigate that and understand, and that's it. Celebrating some wins. I already mentioned the additional folks that registered for a stress management workshop that we're doing. So I'm going to celebrate that win. It could be simply just acknowledging that, putting a smile on my face, and just feeling that joy in my body. That might be enough of a celebration. It could be going and getting a donut. I like my sweets. So something just to acknowledge and celebrate that win. Doesn't have to be sugary foods, but you get the idea. Celebrating wins, even the small things, is really, really important because that starts to rewire your brain to focus on wins opposed to the losses. That's the idea. Next, we want to jump into where are you struggling? The idea being we all encounter adversity, things that we don't enjoy, things that get in the way of what we're trying to do. So acknowledging where you're having a hard time, where you're struggling. Part of the purpose of this group is to offer up support and then be able to also, if you're interested, look into brainstorming with others. That is a stress management technique of advice seeking, gathering information from others. So that way you can make the most informed and educated decision and take action on what you need to do. That's it. Week one, we'll start a review of our first three sessions that we covered. So we did this in the prior series as well. I'm going to start to change this up going forward. So part of this is I'd like to hear from you in regards to what would you like some support with. Excuse me, I'm just trying to check in here. So if you want to add into the chat, I don't know if we have full access into the YouTube chat here since this is where we're streaming live. But I'd like to find out, one, what your thoughts are if you want to check into the chat. And then secondly, what we did in the first week, since I mentioned it's really when we feel and attach meaning to any situation, but specifically when it's not our choice and we get let go from a job. I've had that happen to me several times in my 20-year sales career, which was not a fun process at all. But it's really easy to take things personally and really question our own self-worth, our efficacy in terms of what we do, all these things. And I had a friend recently talk about the idea of having a professional identity. I hadn't really thought about it in that context prior to that, but there is that component of who do you believe you are in terms of a professional? What is your worth? Where does that come from? And all these things. A lot of times we place a lot of emphasis and value on external validation. That's the word I'm looking for. So the idea here is that our survival mind, our if you want to call it lizard brain, whatever it is, our survival mind is really focused on ensuring that we're scanning the environment for anything that's going to cause us harm or kill us. So the challenge is that for the majority of human evolution, we were outside in the wild, exposed to the elements. So there was literal things that were going to kill us physically. The challenge is that most of us, especially in the United States, are not living in environments where we have wild animals that are trying to kill us in the wild. So today's threats are really other people's opinions, expectations, and judgments. The challenge is that we put so much value on those things and in this deeming or perception that those things are really going to harm us. We've lost aspect and perspective on the fact that the old adage of sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That seems for a lot of us that we've lost that viewpoint, I'll say. So in this is the idea that a lot of times we don't want to share the struggles that we're going through, the hard times, because if it's social media having conditioned us or whatever it is, that everybody's showing their best lives, so to speak, and all the rosy stuff instead of the dirt and the rust, as FDR put it in his Man in the Arena speech. So what we really want to do is lean into isolation. Takes us out of being our best. It just allows us to focus more on the negatives and the fear and the doubts and anxieties. So how do we overcome that and not go into that negative space? Well, it's through support. So what we did in that first week was draw out a personal support map. So the inner portion of that, the inner target, the bullseye, so to speak, where you is written, you. The idea here is that there's certain people in your life, hopefully, that are very, very close to you, know you better than anybody else. That might be a significant other, it might be family, it might be certain friends, whatever it is. But you've got hopefully a tight group and a very small amount of people that really know you that well. Those are the people that you can go to and have unconditional support, that they're always going to be there to listen to you and be there for you. Hopefully you have that. And those are the people within that circle that you really want to be able to say, hey, I'm struggling today. I really just need you to listen to me and just hear me out, because I just want to be heard and seen and that type of thing. The next level out is going to be people that you've got a good relationship. You can call them up and ask for some support or ask for some help, something like that. You've got that in your second level. And as we progress out to that outer circle may be connections that you've worked with 10 years ago that you haven't really kept in contact with, connections on LinkedIn that you don't have great, strong relationship with, but you're connected in some capacity. So that's part of your circle of influence, so to speak. And so we can reach out to them in some capacity to say, hey, I know that you're connected to this person over at this space. Do you know them that well? How well do you know them? Or I'm looking for some help review my resume, and I really look up to you. I know we don't have a relationship, but would you mind spending 5 minutes looking over my resume and giving me some feedback? There's some things that we can do that would be helpful in the job search to help you land that next gig. And so that's what we went into. And in week one, we had two components to practice getting out of your comfort zone. That's a big aspect of growing and contributing and taking action. So one was a support check-in to reach out to one person on that map and send simply a message on how you're doing. And this is being vulnerable a little bit. So it's a little bit of a behavior change, stepping out of that comfort zone. But it also is getting out of that isolation mindset and connecting. Because most of us, when we see somebody, we all want to help others. And so that aspect of getting over the fear or doubts of whether or not somebody would be there for you or not, if it's somebody within that initial circle or two, most likely they're going to want to be able to help you and they want to know how you're doing genuinely. Secondly was a gratitude message or a call. This does so much. I cannot understate how much impact this has when you reach out to somebody and genuinely, before reaching out, thinking about who might have impacted you over the past week, past month, whatever it is. Like, I went to a conference a few weeks ago. I got to see Tim Brown from SolarWinds present on the breach that SolarWinds had gone through and his personal experience in that. I then got to talk to him, and that had such an impact on me that reaching out to him to say, hey, I know we don't know each other that well, but I was really genuinely just impacted by your talk and you giving me time. I just felt a lot of joy, and I felt really like I mattered when we spoke. That has so much impact on me. I even feel better just saying that right now, right? That's the idea. So what that does is it puts your focus on positive, put your focus on things that actually make you feel good, opposed to going into that sadness, fear, anger, resentment, all these things that take us out of being our best and help us or lead us to feel not very good, right? So these are not like crazy lists and asks. It's small little things that, one, allow us to take that initial step to start feeling better. That's the whole idea. Week 2, we went into a personal compass. So, this idea of being able to articulate what are the values that really guide your words, thoughts, and your actions. As adults, many of us, and I can say this through experience because I run workshops all over the country and I talk all over the country, I am a big believer in understanding what are the primary values. And I'm talking 3 to 5 primary values that drive your words, thoughts, and your actions. Because as we get into career paths coming out of high school, college, whatever it is, once we start working a job for a certain period of time, we start to lose focus on the reasons why we started off in that career path. And what is it that we really enjoy about it? We start focusing more on what we're doing and how we're doing it and the outcomes we're trying to achieve. And that starts to take us away from the primary values that got us to that situation in the first place. So the more that we can connect back into that and the more that we can live in alignment with our values, that's a major component of stress management and burnout prevention. It's also, conversely, if your values are not in alignment with your department, your organization, that's going to cause some stress and cause some conflict. So understanding what are the primary values that drive you. And for this, just to give the example, that allows us to create a very distinct statement so that way we can communicate to others who we are and what we stand for. One of the reasons that we do that is because of the fact we're wanting to connect with an environment that aligns with us, that aligns with our competencies, our skill set, it aligns with our values, and it helps us find our tribe and belong and connect into that environment. That's a major aspect of stress management also, is that if we don't feel like we fit in the environment that we're in, we're going to have a major mismatch in that component. That's going to lead to stress and possibly burnout. So the idea here is to do some work around, and the activity that we gave was think about 3 people in your life that have impacted, influenced, taught you how to think, talk, act in your environments. It could be your parents, your caregivers, family members, teachers, coaches, managers. There's a limitless amount, or maybe limited, but there's a lot of different areas that you can get into to really identify 3 main people. I've had a lot of mentors and people that I've looked up to in my life that I've tried to emulate. We are imitative creatures. And so for me, I went with my mom, my dad, and one of my football coaches. I might have kind of smashed all my football coaches into one ideal. But I've also had a client that he really, really resonated with a certain type of music genre. And so that became part of his value creation, is identifying what was it about that connected with him and that he really identifies with. So there's a variety of ways to get into this. And once you identify those 3 people, we then have a list of values that we handed out. And then we wanted to brainstorm 15 to 20 values each one of those people lives to you, right? So for example, one of the examples that's on the slide here is the fact that this person said innovation was one of their values. It's great. So the personal compass statement becomes, my compass is innovation because I thrive when I'm solving new challenges with creative technology solutions. Now, you may be able to resonate with that quite a bit being a cybersecurity professional, but if you're in marketing sales, maybe that doesn't fit. Maybe you're into connecting with people, whatever it is. There's a variety of things that we can get into, but the idea here is that this becomes an anchoring statement for you when you are looking for a new job, when you're trying to network and connect with people. There's a variety of ways to use this. So week 2, we went into that. Week 3, we went into goal setting. So one of the challenges here is that the SMART acronym of specific, measurable, attainable, uh, reasonable, and time frame based. I forget what the exact acronyms are. There's some components that we use in that, but it's very outcome focused. So the idea here is that uh, a lot of us, especially in corporate America, especially in cybersecurity, especially in sales, there's a lot of focus on the outcome and the results. And I would argue too much focus. So the idea here is that we want to understand what goal we're trying to achieve, but we also want to put 20% of our focus on that outcome. We don't have full control over the outcome. So the idea is placing more of our focus on what we do have control over. And so this green line represents steps towards that goal. So we focus on things that we have control over, hence the statement, control the controllables, towards the middle of the slide there. But first off, we kind of reverse engineer from the goal setting standpoint in the goal. The idea is to understand what process goals can you set along that goal. So these are specific actions and behaviors that you can engage in to improve your performance. So as a cybersecurity professional, if you are focused on, let's say for lack of a better term, I'm trying to find the right thing, but cybersecurity or security operations, being able to understand what tools that you're working on, maybe that you're not very experienced with a certain tool like Splunk, for example. There's a variety of training that you can utilize to familiarize yourself with that tool and be able to understand, like, how do you get better at utilizing that tool. So that could be a process goal, spending 15 minutes a day understanding Splunk more effectively, something like that. The other thing that we get into is performance goals. So these goals focus on achieving personal standards of performance regardless of the outcome. So this could be things like a very popular topic that I've seen a lot with my clients has been meeting management or time management. So the idea that so many of us get back to back meetings thrown on our calendar. When do you get your work done? This could be a thing then of looking at how do you get better at meeting management. So is there a way to set some criteria for your meeting and say, if you want to block 30 minutes on my calendar, one, I'm going to change that to 25 minutes on my calendar because I want 5 minutes to have a mini reset, right? I want to take a water break. I want to stretch. I want to take a bio break so that way I can switch my mind off from that meeting and be ready for the next meeting. But that little mini energy break or reset allows you to manage your energy throughout the day more effectively, right? But it also manages your time so you have some control over your time a little bit more, right? That's a performance goal. Outcome goals, then, these goals focus on the end result. So for this really is the focus of what are we trying to achieve here, right? So you can break this down since I gave the meeting invite. Same thing for a meeting. What are we trying to achieve here? This is the outcome goal for this meeting. Those things could be applied in a variety of factors and settings as well, but this is what we went through in that week. Combining all of those things together, then, we now have the ability to create a strengths snapshot. So this goes into certain areas, but it actually builds out into a full 30-second pitch. So, hi, my name is, or I'm Steve, my compass is innovation. Then highlighting that strength and why. I'd love to share this resource with you. This goes into a networking component that we mentioned, networking as one of the areas that we covered last week. So this really gets into an opportunity to ask for something, and it's really, we want to give before we ask. And that's the whole thought process behind this, right? So I'd like to share something with you. That's the give, and you're adding value, right? So if you notice that somebody posted something on LinkedIn, you could then tie in an article that aligns with that, or you can mention, oh, hey, did you know about this meeting management technique, right? We just went into it. So I'd like to share this with you. It might help you out because you shared the fact that your post highlighted the challenges that you have with back-to-back meetings, that type of thing. So getting in this just allows us to have more of a process on how we're going to network with the idea behind giving more than we're asking, right? The ask being a more simplified thing of, hey, I'm really trying to land my next gig. It's been a while since I've gone through the interviewing process, and so my resume is a little out of date. I've done some updates to it, but I'm really needing some help on that. Or I'm not great at interviewing. Would you mind helping me? I saw you post on LinkedIn that you're open to helping people with mock interviews or that type of thing, whatever it is. The idea is the more that we can show that we've done a little bit of homework, that we have provided some care into our give and our ask, that's going to lead to better connection and rapport. That's going to help you with that next step. Now, putting that all together, that strengths snapshot pitch is one of the things that we utilize in this 30, 60, 90-day job search plan. So the idea then is to utilize some of those SMART acronyms, but we get into one, really practicing what we've worked on over the past few weeks and then putting it into play. So then identifying that support component, there's ways that you can look at and identify and strategize on what are the companies that I think I'd like to work for. Maybe I could reach out to some other people and find a mentor. If I have a mentor, maybe I can reach out to my mentor and say, hey, these are the 5 companies I've seen postings with and job openings at. Do you know anything about these companies? Do you recommend any of these companies over the others? I've had several people that we've interviewed from our CISO research talk about that specific thing, that they had mentors that were able to give them insights that others were not. And so that being a part of your plan, that helps you then really attack the market and job market, because it's a weird job market and it's not an easy state right now. So building that 30, 60, 90-day plan is what we went into last week as well, with the hope that we're allowing or helping everybody strategize and put a plan together that they could just attack and get after. So with that being said, that was our 4-part series. I hope that we added some value to you and anybody else that's reviewing or viewing these videos. I'm really interested in hearing some feedback, as well as we're thinking about switching this up going forward to try to add as much value as possible. So I've had CISOs and cybersecurity leaders offer up, they'd be willing to do some resume reviews, mock interviews, those types of things. So what would you like to see? If you want to comment in the YouTube section here, what would you like to see more of? What would you like to see less of? Where do you need some help? That's what we want to focus on. And any questions, we're going to open up the Zoom session right now. So I am going to copy that in. Oh, and I can't see it. There we go. So I'm going to add in the YouTube link to the chat here. If I have the ability to do so, I don't know if I do. There we go. So I'm going to add this into the chat. Feel free to join us for the next 30 minutes. It is 10:30 Central Time. We're going to jump onto that for 30 minutes and answer any questions, go through anything that you need some additional help with, and we'll talk to you then. Be well.